Hello, everyone, and welcome to Virtual State of Search. I'm Steve Hammer, coming to you today to talk to you a little bit about uh, agency models and hopefully having a really frank and open discussion about what those really mean and how it can mean something a little bit different for everybody's business. Before we begin, a little bit about me. I run Rank Hammer. We were a US Search Awards winner for the Best Small Agency of the Year several years back, an accomplishment I'm still pretty proud of. I come from a business background, even before getting into the agency business. I was a Kellogg School of Management MBA, and the really important parts of my life are really on the right hand side of that slide there. I have three wonderful kids. That's us at the Grand Canyon about a year back. And I am incredibly into food and wine. It's one of the big disappointments right now with COVID and all the stuff that's associated with that is going out for dinner is not exactly the same as it used to be. And I really relish that and miss that. I can't wait until we're all past this phase of our existence and on to more normal stuff. I'm sure you all feel the same way. When it comes to hiring an agency, the first question you might want to ask yourself is, why am I hiring an agency in the first place? And Rand actually recently wrote a pretty great article about why you might want to consider hiring an agency, because it's a very big decision. These are relationships, and in a lot of cases, you'll be with for a very long time. And why not just take that person in house and have that resource that's there? And what are you really getting out of an agency? Because obviously they have to make some money too. So there's a lot of decisions that go into that sort of decision. At the core of this, my opinion of it is, you hire an agency because they get the details, not just of what's going on in your business, but of the importance of their stuff. Every little detail that goes into something like SEO, they've seen it, they've done it, and they're an expert in that very specific thing. It might be tactical sometimes, it might be strategic at others, but at the core of it, you're getting some wonderful, amazing details. And when you align those things particularly well, you poise yourself for growth. And that's the key of all of this. We're in business together. Agencies and clients should work together to grow together. This isn't one of these one-way streets where we're just here to take money and do busy work. We're here to help you grow. And any agency worth their salt should say that that's their primary focus of what it is that they're doing. However, there's a tension that's inherent in any agency client relationship. It's often been said, I say this all the time, the only thing that's true about an agency and client relationship is that at some point it's going to end, and at some point it's over. No matter how good an agency is, you take really long-seated relationships, and eventually they end. It could be because the founder said something stupid, as Stan Richards recently did, or just you go for something bigger, better, new ideas, or other things that are like that. And at times, actually, that can be the best part about hiring an agency. If it's not working well and there's tension and there's something that's not right there, it's much easier to change an agency than it is to change your entire marketing department as well. At the core of it, though, agencies are a business, and they're a bit of a different business, and that's the important thing to remember. Their product is people. The inventory is literally the hours of the people that we have to sell, and the quality of the people that we have to sell as well. And that makes every one of us unique in terms of the way we look at things, the goals that we have towards what those people should be doing, even the type of people we hire. And the agency models can set you up for some of these things a little bit differently. Before we begin, I want to cover one huge red flag. I don't see this as much anymore, but it's still one of those absolute monster things. In traditional agency work, when you think of TV, radio, all of those sorts of things, there is no agency in the world that would give you a money back guarantee. There is no agency in the world that would guarantee any certain level of sales. There's no agency in the world that would guarantee any of these things. For some reason, the search industry got into this mode where we guarantee results, or some shady agencies would do so, and it just doesn't work. There's too many variables that are out there. Your competitors can do different things. Google can change their algorithms. Even now, when you look at SEO and things that are going on, they're saying it can take 3 to 4 months even to index new links that are pointing at your website. That makes it a little bit hard to have any level of guarantee of anything that's out there. Frankly, anything that can be guaranteed at that level is probably not of any real value to your business. And that's where a lot of this shady kind of character stuff came from. So do watch out for that. It's certainly not something you want to be running towards. As good as it sounds, it's usually actually means that you've just wasted that minute, that if you actually do get your money back, you've wasted that many months on not growing your business, not getting any results, or not getting anything that's out there. So let's dive into a few different types of agency relationships that are out there. The most basic one that's out there, and it's usually on the lower end of things, is these prepackaged things. If you buy our starter package, you'll get X number of blog posts, Y number of links, and Z number of technical fixes, or whatever the case may be. And it's very, very oriented towards kind of the lower end of things. I don't see these as much as I used to, but they're very popular. It's not a bad way to go. It even exists in PPC, not just SEO as well. But it's usually a good, better, best sort of setup towards the things that you're doing, and it's priced on a monthly basis, sometimes with easy cancellations, sometimes with less easy cancellations. The benefits are pretty simple if you're hiring an agency like this to understand. You get some real clarity in terms of what it is that you're getting. The challenge of that, though, is that what your business actually needs? It's wonderful that they're going to give you 4 blog posts a month, and that's what you're going to get out of it. But if 4 blog posts a month don't move your business, what does that matter? The same can be said of, we'll do 12 different keywords in your PPC advertising. If those aren't the right keyword select, and that's all they're going to do for that month, you don't really have any recourse to go back and get them to change it. So you get these very, very cookie cutter solutions. And that's the real issue towards things. You don't really get things that are bespoke and really tailored to your business. That can be a huge problem for most people. From the agency side of things, there's actually some real benefits to something like this. You can actually really develop a process. And if everyone's getting the same thing, you can plug in the pretty junior folks. They know exactly what they need to do. They need to modify this many pages. They need to attack this many. They need to build up the keywords in this way. It's a very simple thing for people to understand, and they can get going pretty quickly on it. It's a good way for people to intro into the business. The challenge of it is most of these tend to be on the lower end. So if you're playing in these prepackaged worlds, you have to sell a lot, an awful lot, to make it happen. You'll be at the lower end, and you have to really be able to do that. Have the great contacts, have all of the resources to make that happen. A variant of this is a little bit different. There's specialty agencies, and these tend to happen, I think, with a lot of things that are very, very locally oriented. Automotive is certainly one of it. Legal is another. Most of these don't have the national reach of, say, like an e-commerce or something like this. So people tend to find dentistry, I've seen it in as well. People tend to find their way into these specialty agencies because they're very unique to their industry, and they speak the language and they understand what's going on there. When you're hiring one of these agencies, they know your business before they've walked in the door because they've worked with 12 other dentists or 20 other lawyers, or sort of you name it, along the whole line of things. So they know exactly what it is that makes your business tick. They can plug it in, they can run the process, and they can do what needs to be done. The challenge is, if you have a high concentration or you're in a particularly large city, you may have a lot of companies that will look just like you doing exactly the same thing if they hire the same agency, because they're going to follow basically the same set of processes. They're going to follow the same reasons to be doing the same sorts of things, and you'll end up kind of looking like everyone else. That can be fine because at the core of it, you can carve off your own specific geographic areas. People aren't going to drive 45 minutes for a dentist in most cases. So it's fine if the dentist in North Denver looks different than the one in South Denver. It's not really that big of a deal, but it can be a bit of a challenge. So you have to make sure that the agency you're hiring doesn't have people that you compete with directly, or your ads are going to pretty much look the same, and as well as a lot of your effort. From the agency view, this stuff sells amazingly. Yabez, who used to be in the industry, who has left since, he used to work specifically with lawyers. He said selling to these lawyers, once you understood their business, was so much easier. They knew really quickly that you understood their business, and as soon as you walked in, they just felt so much more relief that you got what they were all about. The challenge of it is, by your nature, you are restricting yourself to that specific industry. And there's two kind of factors to that. One, you better do a good job, because if you don't, most industries are smaller than they seem, and people will talk and they will ask for references. And if you can't provide them from other folks that are in that industry, you're going to really have a challenge. The second part of it is, you've restricted that market level to the point where at times you have to turn business away. That's perfectly good business that you might be able to do. That might be just a little out of center, but it's not going to fit your processes. It's not going to fit what it is that you're doing. If you focus on dentists and a doctor comes to you, it might not be the greatest fit, and it's going to hurt to turn that down. So, sometimes finding partnerships and other people that you can work with to be able to trade off those leads and work with those can really help you find ways to grow your business. On the hourly side of things, this is one of the most basic ways you can do things. And there's a bit of a challenge to this, in that it puts agencies on the same mark with freelancers, but at the very least, people understand what it is that they're getting. And that's the real benefit of an hourly package. I know that I got 12 hours this week that was spent with what it is that I was doing, and I'm going to get those 12 hours. I know I have someone who's dedicated to me for that period of time, and I can really understand that. It's a comfort, but there's a real issue. Not everybody does things at the same pace, and a senior person might be able to do something in 2 hours that a junior person might take 12 hours to do. So it's wonderful that you got the $30 an hour person for 10 hours, but it turns out that if you'd hired the $100 an hour person that could have done it in 2 hours, you actually would have saved money. And that's kind of hard to figure out before the fact, whether you're going to get the most senior folks that are actually doing your work. When we started out in the business, this is what we did, except the thing was, we told everybody, and the true statement, that everybody was senior, so we could get things done a lot faster, and we knew it than other things. But we still, when we were selling, always had this problem of, we were going up against people who had much cheaper hourly rates. The way you scale this on a basis is retainers. At least if you can lock folks into a number of hours per month and have a feel for what's going to be accomplished, that's a good way to at least be able to spread out your payments, have some revenue consistency, and feel pretty good about things. And that makes things happen. There's a couple challenges to that. One, time is literally money for you. And at that point, it's your efficiency for everybody on your workforce really matters. You have to put time tracking into place. You have to make sure that people are at least some level of minimum efficiency, or you're going to lose money on any of your full-time folks. So it's really important that you're measuring and are really kind of a stickler for putting things down. You have to think like a lawyer in this case, where you're looking for, at this many hours, this is done, and that's all the time that there is. And if somebody calls you, that's 15 minutes, boom, done, game over. And really be a stickler for that, or you'll get nickel and dimed out of your own systems, if you will, and that can be a real bad thing. And frankly, every employee that I've ever worked with hates time tracking. I've never known one that loves it. So you're automatically in a little bit hurting morale just by going to a pure hourly basis like this. Flip side of this is a little bit different, where you can do a project by project basis. And these are really good ways to kind of hybridize between some of the other systems that we've just talked about, where you can merge in a little bit of that hourly, merge in a little bit of scope of work, and understand what it is that you're getting. If you're hiring, it's absolutely fantastic. It's really easy to understand exactly what it is that you're getting. It's very easy to understand that I'm not overpaying for anything that's associated with that. But the challenge of it is, I'm going to get it on on a certain basis. It's the routine stuff. It's very hard to do on a project basis. Those, for example, maintenance on a PPC account, it's really hard to do that on a project basis because it's hard to say, well, go do all that negative work, or you do these tests, or some of the stuff that's sort of the routine maintenance just doesn't really fly quite the same on a project basis. So you end up having to hybridize with some of the other methods that are out there, and that can be okay, but it can it can kind of throw things off. From the agency perspective, the good thing about project basis is usually you can have a pretty decent premium that you're charging for these sorts of things, because the scope is in there. It's easy to understand what it is exactly that you'll be doing, and you can kind of work your way through it. The challenge is almost everything you're ever going to ask to do is going to take a decent amount of approval. That slows things down, and it makes things just that much harder to get done. So if you're looking for flexibility, and you as an agency really value that level of flexibility, you're going to lose out on this. It's not going to feel the same. It's not going to feel like a constant flow, because you're constantly, if you will, selling your client over and over and over again on this. It can work great. If anybody tends to do this, it tends to be larger companies. So it's, again, it can be really positive, and sometimes it's just the way you have to approach things. But there's some people that just don't like to work on this basis. Another model that's out there is percentage of spend. And it's this one really only applies into paid media for obvious reasons. And if you're a link buyer, maybe it would apply there, but generally it doesn't. It's and it's super easy to understand, and that's the real benefit of it. When you're hiring someone to do this, you're going to say, I'm going to have $10,000 a month spend. They're going to charge me 15% on that spend. I know exactly what's going where, who's doing what, and whatever else that's associated with that. And it's kind of easy to get it and understand it, and you're just tacking it on to the end of the spend. The issue is it's a natural tug of war, and you have to understand that there's times where the agency may recommend things that aren't in your best interest, because frankly, that's the way they scale. From the agency perspective of things, you have to shovel money in there and grow those clients so that they can continue to grow your own revenue in the process. The challenge is, along the way, you have to make sure it's worth it. You can't just throw money into the fire, as the joke goes here. You have to be proving your value along the way. And if there's ever one group of folks that I've seen that is a stickler for making sure that your ROI, anything we've ever done on a percentage of spend, tends to really have that focus. So proving yourself matters, and it matters very quickly. Kind of a bit of a hybrid of this is the performance-based models. We've done this in a number of ways, where we'll say, hey, 10%, every lead that we'll get, we're going to get $50 for, $100 for, $200 for, or whatever the number is that makes sense. Or in affiliate marketing world, it would be the percentage that you're giving up for things. It's marvelous because you're as you're signing up for things, you've got a natural partner. Your incentives are aligned naturally. You're going to find that you guys automatically want the same things. More leads is more money for the agency, and it's more money for you because it's wonderful in that regard. There's a couple issues with it. One, if it doesn't work, you can really be out for a long period of time. You've wasted that time with an agency that doesn't work, that's willing to accept this while they're trying to figure out the scale. And if it doesn't work in that perspective, that can be really bad. There's a variant of this, which is the worst of all models, and I've almost always seen this to be a horrible one, which is to give up equity in your own company to try and sign a marketing partner. Again, it sounds like this would be the marvelous work, but if in fact the agency doesn't work out, getting that equity back or doing something else that's along that line is near impossible. So you've trapped yourself in a process that may be really bad. And again, you haven't grown your business while the clunker agency doesn't really work. There's another issue for the agencies that are working on things. They run into a situation where the effort that they spend early on can be really, really great, but it doesn't match up with where the revenue comes, which happens a lot later. Early on in any marketing program, you're to spend a lot more effort than you are in terms of getting that ROI. That's just sort of normal. So you put on all the effort up front, and you're hoping to get that kicker on the back end when things are working a little bit better and a little bit smoother. You're still going to have to keep working, don't get me wrong, but it's from there. It can be a real issue. And the challenge is this, and this is one of the reasons I will not accept this model personally, and don't really recommend it for many agencies. What ends up happening is, eventually, you are producing, if you're doing really well, you start producing a lot of leads and a lot of business for these customers, and they start to go, I'm paying you how much? And when that occurs, you're saying, but I'm doing all this stuff for you, and look at all the work that I did for you in the past. That investment I made up front, that's great. But that question keeps coming up. I'm paying you how much? And that's a pretty uncomfortable thing. While SEO is a constant effort, for example, it continues to pay off for a while, even when you stop doing it. So even if they stop paying you, they're still going to get some benefits. The same would be true of PPC. Yes, that's going to reduce over time, but that happens. And there's really no great way that I've found to continue to capture the value they continue to get after they've terminated a relationship with you. We've got another one that we've been experimenting with that's kind of, we've tried to make it as the best of both worlds, and we refer to it as agile marketing. The idea is to pay for deliverables rather than hours, rather than percentage of spend, and just know what it is that you're getting. And it's great because it's a hybrid of a lot of the best of whatever else is out there. The challenge is the way Agile works, and we work in a Kanban system, it's not deadline focused. So for clients who have specific needs on specific dates, we're like, well, we're working on that. That's your next goal. They're like, but yeah, we needed it yesterday. Why aren't you working on it? Well, because we already used your points. It's kind of a combination of this. If any of you guys worked in an Agile system, it's kind of the way Agile tends to work, although on Scrum basis, there's a little bit more of this. So there can be a little bit of a tension between the timeliness of business and what has to be out there. But at the core of it, you're getting so many points per month, and people get it. And you're only paying for what is delivered, which is fantastic. And so it ties a little bit of the project, it ties a little bit of hourly, and it ties kind of the best of everything. From an agency perspective, it's interesting to scale this because you have to find the best person, because you're paying for deliverable. You can make that benefit where the person only takes 2 hours to get something done, and assign that person. That's great. That's actually a profitable decision. That person that ends up taking 14 hours to get something done that you thought was only going to take 2 hours ends up being really unprofitable. And the real challenge of it from an agency perspective is explaining it. It's different. Not everybody really works on this sort of system. So how much am I paying you per hour? Well, it doesn't really matter, because there's times where I assign it to somebody who's really fast, times where I assign it to somebody who's slower, and I pay those people different rates, and we just blend those things out. That's where it gets to be a bit of a challenge for people to understand this. You kind of feel like, even though some people who work in an Agile system, software developers, SaaS programs, and the like, seem to really get it because they work on that system and their basis themselves. A lot of folks that have worked with traditional agencies and traditional retainers don't quite understand this idea as well, that the efficient person that I'm paying more, that can get it done faster, ends up delivering the same value as the person who is slower, that can still get it done, but takes a lot longer, and I pay less to. And that balance is a little bit of a challenge to work across as you continue to scale it up. The bottom line of all of these is pretty simple to understand. You got to align the incentives in a way that make the most sense for your business, for everything it is that you're doing, and that gives you that chance to compress and focus on what's going to grow your business for you. Not everything's perfect. Everything is a pro and a con. If you're looking at it from an agency perspective, everything has a challenge. Everything has a benefit, and you just have to find things that make sense for the people that you have, and vice versa. On the client side of things, you have to think, yeah, you have to take those trade-offs in terms of what makes sense for your business. Is the simplicity of working on a percentage of spend worth it when you compare it to um, the possible misalignment of incentives where the agency may try to upsell you into new channels that may or may not work for you at the same rate as others. Um, Hopefully this will give you a good basis for some informed decisions. And we're always here to answer questions for you, whether we're an agency partner or not, or whether you're a fellow agency and you're exploring some of these models and different ways of looking at things. We're here to talk. And so feel free to reach out. Twitter, Armand Hammer is the handle. Also my email, steve@rankhammer.com. Feel free to reach out at any time. We're here to help and help guide you and be good partners, whether or not we're working together on a full-time basis or anything like it. I really appreciate your time today, and I'm going to shut this recording down and we'll focus on some questions. Thank you very much.